Hey guys, D2 here with a game analysis for you today. This is actually the sixth game from Jab that I'm going to be analyzing today, but it's not going to be focused on him, it's going to be focused on purple on the bottom of your screen there. Now, when I normally do these game analysis or series analysis, I typically pick two good players that played a very good series and had very good plays, maybe even next level plays that sometimes, go over the heads of the casual player that they couldn't see. And in normal casts, sometimes they miss some of these next level plays because, you have to keep the cast going. I've been a caster as well. You obviously miss a lot of things, especially when you're trying to keep a conversation going with your co-caster. Maybe you're listening into production. There's a lot of things that go on that can maybe lead to you missing some plays. And that's why I like to go over some of those plays in these analyses. But this time is going to be a little bit different. Even though these two players are obviously extremely good, I'm going to be doing this analysis to focus on the misplays of Purple. And obviously, I kind of feel a little bit bad doing this to Purple. He's a great guy, I've met him in person, and obviously an extremely good player who typically has pristine high-level plays when he does play. But and this is obviously just an off game for him. But ironically, I actually feel more comfortable talking about Purple's misplays because he's such a good player and because this is obviously just an off game for him. Whereas if I were looking at the misplays of a lesser player, I would feel less comfortable because they probably made their mistakes because they're not very good at Hearthstone. So, in any case, I talk about him making misplays, but they're not really misplays. It's not like, he could have taken 1 damage when he actually took 2 damage, stuff like that. It's actually just kind of different lines of play that he made, and he definitely had his reasons for going down those lines of play. I just happen to disagree with them, and the plays that I had at the moment, I felt like would have led him would have made him have a better chance of victory at that moment. So anyway, without further ado, let's get into the game. Let's start with those mulligans. Purple here, he has Twilight Drake, Ironbeak Owl, Mountain Giant, and Doomguard. He mulligans everything except that Twilight Drake, which I absolutely agree with. Ironbeak Owl, if you're playing in something like Mech Mage, maybe you can silence, a Mad Scientist or something like that. Or a Mech Warper, I guess. But in this Temple Mage, you're really not going to be silencing anything of any real significance. Maybe, like, yes, there could be that Mad Scientist, but you can just play, Sunfury Protector or an Ancient Watcher to get rid of that anyway, or maybe a Mortal Coil, or maybe your coin to get rid of, the counter spell or whatever. So the beginning game is pretty straightforward. This is all good and normal. Purple's not going to coin tap or anything. He kept the Drake so he could coin Drake on turn 3. Gets rid of that Sorcerer's Apprentice. Everything is fine so far. Funny moment, gets the Dark Bomb right back. And he could Dark Bomb Mortal Coil here, but again, I agree with him so far. Going for this is just a bigger minion. Just thinking about statistically, you have a 4-7 versus 3-4, whereas if you Dark Bomb Mortal Coil, yeah, you gain a card, but it's 0 versus 0. You have a bigger board right now. And Jab, he does the normal thing, which is do Flamemaker things. He gets a Living Root, which is a nice thing to get in this situation. Pairs with Flamemaker very well. And this next play is actually very good by Purple. He picks up this Mountain Giant, and he really wants to have 5... he wants that Mountain Giant to be 5 mana for next turn so that he can play it next turn. So instead of doing the mana efficient Defender of Argus, and also it's best, a lot of times it's best to get Defender of Argus out in the field first, just because it's easy. Like, Sunfury Protector is actually more useful unless you really need the stat buff for that situation, because Defender of Argus obviously costs more, and it's easier to get the Sunfury Protector out with on something like a Molten Giant. So a lot of times you go for the Defender of Argus, but in this case it's better to tap and Sunfury Protector so that he can play out the Mountain Giant the next turn. Gets a little bit unlucky here with the Flame Canyon, Canyon, as I say. Jab actually does a really smart play here. Instead of trading and putting his minions in Hellfire range, he actually just goes all phase and just maximizes the damage. He could have also thrown the 2/1/1s. But he's just playing it risky, and he's going to go ahead and ping the 2/3 so that he can be able to ping it the following turn as well. Now, Purple's play has paid off, so now he can play this Mountain Giant and basically gain board control. Everything else is kind of weak right here. If he played, he could have maybe Mortal Coiled and played Defender of Argus, but still at 19 health, this is probably the last time he's ever going to be able to play this Mountain Giant. So far so good. I definitely agree with everything that he's done so far. Some pretty interesting plays. I mean, the casters missed the fact that he tapped to go into the Mountain Giant the following turn. So already some next level plays, maybe that some casual players are missing. But here's where it differs a little bit. And here's where he could have maybe played around some of the stuff that Jab had. Now, he saw that in the previous turn that Jab actually played Mana Worm into Flame Cannon and then Ping. So he only had 3 mana worth of stuff. So there's a very high chance that Jab has something like Dr. Boom in his hand right now. Or at least something maybe a little bit clunky. And unlikely that he's going to be able to use Ping very well with some sort of 5-drop, because he probably would have done that the prior turn. Now, unless Jab was really just going super YOLO for that Flame Cannon, because otherwise he would, if it hit the wrong thing, he would have had to run his Spellslinger in anyway. So the reason why I say all that is because Jab, he's looking for more cards, which is reasonable. Again, it's completely reasonable for him to be doing this. But for one, he could have done something like maybe Hellfire and then Dark Bomb, and then had board control in this situation, and basically had an 8-2 against nothing. And the other thing he could have done is looked at the stats on the board, and he could have gone, instead of Sunfury Protector, he could have gone Defender of Argus. And also this leaves Sunfury Protector for future turns if he ever picks up the Molten Giant in future turns. And it would afford him that flexibility. And so that what Defender of Argus does is it makes it so this that Spellslinger doesn't trade perfectly into the Mountain Giant and forces a ping out of Jab and doesn't allow him to play this Dr. Boom. Again, obviously Purple doesn't know the Dr. Boom is there, but if he had thought about it a little bit more carefully, he would have maybe thought about what could possibly be in Jab's hand. And also, just the fact, again, that now that he's drawn this Molten Giant, the thing that's been trying to draw into the entire time, now that he's drawn it, it's much more difficult to be able to play with the Defender of Argus. Gets the Boombot in his face, which is good for him, but now he can't Mortal Coil the other Boombot, which is obviously problematic. These Mortal Coil on the Boombot is a little bit too risky, so he definitely goes for the right play here after this is all played out. And goes for the burp and the Molten Giant and the Defender of Argus to put up a huge wall. In response to this, Jab has a really annoying play where he basically he gets rid of the entire board while playing Solemn Vigil for 0 mana, which obviously has to be vexing for Purple. Yeah, I don't remember the sequencing of this, but in the end, Jab is able to play that Solemn Vigil for 0 after he plays the Frostbolt and gets a lot of damage in Purple's face, and Purple kind of has a stink face. And but this is really important because, or to think about, because he Frostbolts here, which means 2 damage goes to face, and then he Solemn Vigils, which is another 2 damage to face. And if you he has actually 2 mana left, and Purple's kind of being a little bit too salty to kind of think about the ramifications of this. So it's obvious that Jab doesn't have Frostbolt, because it would have been lethal already right here. So what he can do right here, and what's crucial about his hand, is that he has both Morganis and Lord Jaraxxus. Very, very clunky cards right now. And he kind of rushes through this turn really, really quickly and decides that, let me just stop right here. He decides that he needs to heal Bob because he's in range of obviously Fireball, Frostbolt, etc., etc. But he would have known, I mean, maybe his opponent did pick up Fireball or something like that, but basically you want to put up taunts before you put up healing, almost all the time, unless you're really, really sure that your opponent can kill you. And in this case, he's basically allowing his opponent to get 2 extra damage to his face at least from that Flame Waker before he puts taunts up. And the biggest thing here is that it makes it really hard for him to play Jaraxxus anytime soon. You really want to have board control before you're able to play Jaraxxus. And by doing this, he's putting a really small minion on the board that doesn't really do a whole lot. I like the Mortal Coil afterward, though, to make sure, because he might play a 9 drop next turn. And basically allowing either his Jaraxxus to trade into that Flame Waker or, you know, his heal bot. So I like the Mortal Coil play, it's really cute. But I think it would have been much better to play the Twilight Drake, Defender of Argus. Yes, it's his last taunt, but from here you can basically control the game with your Shadow Flame, with your big, huge minions, be that, you know, your 6/6s from Jaraxxus or Morganis. So he's kind of putting himself in a position where he's falling behind. on board, and it's going to be really way too difficult to play out these 9-cost minions. Um, now, Jab does. I guess it's all rolling. He gets an animal companion, pretty lucky on his part. Now here's another spot where Purple can play something like Mountain Giant, and he can play something like Mountain Giant and Shadow Flame, but instead he goes for the Rampage Shadow Flame, and what that does is it leaves him. I mean, let's get everything straight here. He actually dies after this turn anyway, so it doesn't matter. But just everything considered, he wants to play. He goes for the same kind of play where he's kind of desperately searching for something, which I don't know what it is, but he's searching for more answers, and the biggest problem is he doesn't get a big enough board to ever be able to play one of his 9-drop minions. Like right here, he basically leaves it into an empty board state and allows his opponent to get initiative the next turn, and he's basically putting himself in a position where he's never able to play a 9-drop. So this turn he finally plays it risky, which he should have done last turn, and he taps and he rampages and he Shadow Flames. One thing I want to point out is obviously he would have had some of these cards like this Twilight Drake and like the Mountain Giant if he hadn't tapped earlier on. But obviously the board state would have been a bit different had he gone for those other plays, and he would have been able to maybe play out a Morganus earlier, or not earlier. He would have been able to set up Morganus, maybe play something like Hellfire, maybe play something like a Shadow Flame. To set up for something later instead of being stuck in a position where he had to make the plays that he did. So in any case, he does go for this. He goes for the Shadow Flame instead of doing the Mountain Giant and leaving himself with at least 1 minion on the board to contest the board. And Jab plays his Erred Drake, picks up the Fireball, and ends the game. And a lot of salt coming out of Purple, and with the little golf clap. But yeah, so Purple, obviously someone who's kind of very proud. He's very confident in his play, and always talking about how he uses math to be able to win. And typically it works very well. He steamrolled through the regional qualifiers to get to this point, and he basically steamrolled through his first round match as well to get to the final round of his group to go against Jab. But in this case, it kind of, I think he maybe got a little bit too caught up, kind of going against what he said in this interview, and kind of got too caught up in maybe the RNG element where he could have maybe made some better plays that game. But yeah, just anyway, so that's going to be it for this game analysis. Just want to point out some, misplays, whereas normally I talk about the next level plays and amazing plays. You actually did see some really good plays there from Purple on the early going, but sometimes the casters they miss certain things. They don't want to you don't want to bash the players too hard. So just want to point that out right now. And yeah, I mean, congratulations to Jab once more. He gets to go to BlizzCon, and hopefully Purple can go to BlizzCon. I'm definitely rooting for him. He's one of the best players out there. So that's going to be it. Thank you for watching, and like, subscribe, and comment, please. I'll see you guys next time.